Did you know that samurai would deliberately drink their enemy's blood? Not as some mystical ritual, but because they believed it would transfer their fallen opponent's strength directly to them. What we're taught about these legendary warriors barely scratches the surface of their true lives. Behind the polished armor and code of honor existed practices so disturbing that historians often leave them out of textbooks. Today we're exposing the rituals they hoped you'd never discover. 1. Blood rituals and battlefield consumption. Think of the samurai, and you probably picture disciplined warriors wielding katanas with almost artistic precision. Their code of Bushido emphasized honor, loyalty, and restraint. But on the blood-soaked battlefields of feudal Japan, these warriors engaged in practices that would make even the most hardened history buff squirm. When a samurai warrior defeated a worthy opponent, the victory continued beyond the fatal blow. Historical accounts reveal that many samurai would kneel beside their fallen enemies and consume their blood. This established custom flourished particularly during the chaotic Sengoku period when Japan was fractured by civil war. Samurai believed in a direct transfer of power. By drinking an enemy's blood, they absorbed their opponent's strength, courage, and fighting abilities. The victor gained the physical and mental attributes that had made their enemy formidable in battle. Military commanders during the Sengoku period, 1467 to 1615, actively promoted this practice. Before crucial battles, a general in 1584 reportedly instructed his men, "Drink deeply of your enemy's essence, and their skill with the sword becomes yours." For respected opponents, the ritual extended beyond blood. Elite samurai consumed small pieces of liver or heart, organs believed to house concentrated courage and fighting spirit. A macabre hierarchy developed. A legendary archer's eyes might be prized, while a renowned swordsman's heart carried special significance. This practice created intense social pressure. Warriors who refused to participate faced ridicule, their hesitation interpreted as weakness. Young samurai learned that complete victory meant claiming an enemy's essence. What began as battlefield opportunism evolved into formalized rituals. By the late 16th century, specific methods of extraction and consumption had been established. Some clans crafted ceremonial knives used exclusively for removing organs. Others developed specific prayers spoken while consuming an enemy's blood, designed to enhance the transfer of power. These ceremonies served psychological purposes beyond their supposed physical benefits. By consuming the enemy, samurai enacted a complete conquest, eliminating the physical threat while preventing the opponent's spirit from seeking revenge. This created closure in an era when battlefield death was ubiquitous. Samurai believed they absorbed tactical knowledge through this consumption. Warriors might specifically seek opponents who had mastered unusual techniques, hoping to acquire that knowledge through ritual consumption after victory. These practices peaked during Japan's turbulent periods, but declined as the country entered the relatively peaceful Edo period, 1603 to 1867. As battles became less common, opportunities for such rituals naturally diminished. The practice gradually transformed from active battlefield ritual to symbolic mythology, occasionally resurfacing during intense conflicts, particularly against foreign enemies. 2. The Black Teeth Ritual, Ohaguro. As Japan's era of constant warfare evolved, samurai cultivated more than just their combat skills. They transformed their very appearance into a weapon of intimidation. Could you imagine deliberately painting your teeth pitch black with a caustic mixture that burned your gums and tasted like metal, all while considering it a mark of high status? For Japanese warriors, this wasn't vanity but strategy. The practice of ohaguro, deliberately blackening teeth, is perhaps one of the most visually jarring aspects of samurai culture that Western observers documented. Portuguese missionaries who first encountered this custom in the 16th century described warriors with teeth as black as coal, and initially believed it to be a sign of disease rather than an intentional practice. The creation of ohaguro was both an art and a torment. The primary ingredient was a solution called kanemizu, literally iron water. made by soaking iron filings in tea or vinegar until they oxidized. This created ferric tannate, which would then be mixed with a sticky adhesive made from dissolved sugar, sake, and various plant materials. When applied to teeth, the solution would react with the enamel, creating a lacquer-like coating that turned permanently black. Application was far from pleasant. Many historical accounts describe the burning sensation when the acidic mixture first contacted the gums and teeth. One 17th century samurai's diary notes, "The pain of first application is like holding burning coals in one's mouth, yet one must endure without showing weakness." The process required daily maintenance, with complete reapplication every few days, creating a constant cycle of discomfort throughout a warrior's life. Why would anyone voluntarily subject themselves to such an uncomfortable process? The answers reveal the samurai's practical mindset. Despite appearances, Ohaguro provided significant dental benefits. The iron oxide created a protective coating that prevented tooth decay at a time when dental care consisted primarily of wooden toothpicks and salt. Archaeological examination of samurai remains shows remarkably well-preserved teeth compared to common people from the same era. During extended campaigns, when warriors might go months without access to proper food or medical care, blackened teeth were less likely to become painfully sensitive or develop cavities. This meant fewer distractions during crucial battles and less vulnerability to infections that could sideline a warrior completely. The psychological effect on opponents was equally valuable. Picture yourself facing a samurai in battle, his teeth blackened to jet, creating a stark contrast against his skin. This deliberate alteration of a fundamental human feature created an unsettling, otherworldly appearance. Combined with the elaborate helmets and masks many samurai wore, the effect was to transform the warrior into something that didn't quite seem human. Some daimyo, feudal lords, made Ohaguro mandatory for their samurai precisely because of this intimidation factor. One military manual from 1592 advises, "A warrior whose teeth shine white shows his opponent a familiar face. One whose teeth are black as night presents the face of a demon." This psychological edge complemented the practical benefits, making Ohaguro a surprisingly strategic choice rather than mere vanity. The practice eventually extended beyond the battlefield. Court nobles adopted blackened teeth as a status symbol, and by the Edo period, married women were expected to blacken their teeth as a sign of fidelity and beauty. This cultural evolution demonstrates how a practice born of practical warfare considerations gradually transformed into a broader social custom. Ohaguro finally disappeared from Japanese society following the Meiji Restoration of 1868, when Western influence led to new aesthetic ideals. The practice was officially banned in 1870 as part of Japan's modernization efforts. The government specifically cited the need to appear civilized to Western nations as justification for ending the centuries-old tradition. 3. Hygiene, scarification, and body modification. The elimination of Ohaguro was just one step in Japan's modernization efforts, but it barely scratched the surface of the samurai's complex relationship with their bodies. While modern movies portray samurai as pristine warriors in spotless armor, historical accounts tell a very different story. One where the warrior's body itself became a weapon meticulously modified for psychological warfare. The image of the fastidious samurai is largely a modern invention. During wartime, many samurai deliberately practiced what we might call strategic filth. A battlefield journal from 1575 describes commanders ordering their men to avoid bathing for weeks before major confrontations. The accumulated body odor, referred to as warrior's essence in some texts, was believed to have tactical advantages. As one samurai wrote, "The scent of a warrior carries his fighting spirit. To wash is to dilute one's resolve." This wasn't mere superstition. The psychological impact of facing opponents whose very presence could be detected downwind created genuine advantages in close combat. Some warrior clans took this further, deliberately cultivating distinct odors through diet and herbal preparations rubbed into their skin and hair. During the late 16th century, The Takeda clan became known for a particularly pungent battlefield presence their enemies claimed could be detected from nearly a quarter-mile away. But hygiene practices were just the beginning. The samurai's skin itself served as a permanent record of their warrior journey through deliberate scarification. Unlike the decorative tattoos that would later become associated with Japanese organized crime, samurai scarification was practical and symbolic. A samurai's body told his story through an elaborate system of marks that signified battles fought, oaths sworn, and allegiances pledged. These markings followed strict protocols. Records from the Aizu clan describe a ceremonial cutting performed after first battle participation, typically a small crescent shape at the base of the thumb that would never fully heal due to repeated sword practice. With each significant battle or promotion, additional marks would be added, creating a physical resume that other warriors could read at a glance. Fire branding was reserved for deeper commitments. When swearing blood oaths to their lords, some samurai would press heated metal clan insignia against their bodies, often on the upper arm or back. A 16th century account describes one lord who commanded his most loyal retainers to bear his family crest. The men who carried Lord Wisugi's falcon, mark upon their flesh, fought with the determination of men who had already accepted death. Perhaps most disturbing was how some samurai prepared their bodies for the possibility of ritual suicide. Historical records describe senior warriors who periodically created shallow cuts across their abdomen, allowing the wounds to heal into hardened scar tissue. This practice, called karitsuke in some regions, was a macabre form of training intended to desensitize the area and create a guide for the final, fatal cut should seppuku become necessary. A samurai physician from the early 17th century wrote, "Those who have properly prepared their center can complete the 3 cuts with dignity, while the unprepared man jerks and cries out, bringing shame upon his name and lineage." The normalization of such extensive physical modification reveals how completely the samurai worldview departed from our modern conception of bodily integrity. What's remarkable isn't just that these practices existed, but how they became institutionalized. Young samurai were gradually inducted into these customs, starting with minor modifications and progressing to more extreme forms as they advanced in rank. The combination created a multi-sensory assault on enemies. The sight of blackened teeth and ritualized scars, distinctive odors cultivated over weeks, and the elaborate top knots and facial hairstyles that completed the warrior's appearance. So we've peeled back the lacquered armor to reveal samurai warriors as they truly were. Not the pristine heroes of modern cinema, but flesh and blood men who embraced practices that would make even hardened history buffs squirm. The romantic image we hold today glosses over these warriors' deliberate cultivation of terror through every sense: visual, olfactory, and psychological. Next time you admire a gleaming samurai helmet in a museum case, remember, the man who wore it likely had deliberately blackened teeth, ritual scars mapping his loyalty, and believed in the power of consuming his enemy's essence. Want more unvarnished history? Subscribe for the uncomfortable truths behind history's most revered figures.